as we're moving towards final steps, now I'm going to show you how to do final adjustments in Photoshop using camera raw filter. So this is something I usually do on my images. I don't like to do it with the adjustment layers, but the final touch-ups that I do, I like to do using camera raw filter. So how to do it? At first, we need to create the final layer on the top. So as we did some of the work, some color work as well, we need to make sure that we select the last layer. Then I'm going to press Command, Option, Shift and E on MacBook, and that would be Control, Alt, Shift and E if we work on the Windows device. So I'm going to rename this into Final, and then to make sure that I can edit adjustments I will do in Camera, I'm going to hit right and convert to the smart object. So if I'm going to apply the adjustments, then I can change it anytime I want. So once it's ready, I'm going to filter and I'm choosing camera filter. So what I do at the very end, I did not set any contrast before because I like to do it here. I like to do it using camera filter if I work in Photoshop, and usually when I work with the bigger number of the images, I like to do it using Lightroom. And also the shadows getting a little bit dark, so I decided to bring up the shadows. And as we work with the contrast, as we increase the contrast, we might also increase the saturation. And this is why I like to take down some of the saturation over here. When it comes to the texture on these images, I don't feel we need to get back more texture, but if it's needed, of course, we can work a little bit more with the texture, but I don't really think we can get some strong result over here. But as I said, we can do it just to make sure that some details maybe will be more visible. But be careful because you don't want the bad things to become more visible. So when it comes to the texture, be rather settled. Also the same when it comes to the clarity. Clarity builds up the contrast around the midtone. So if we do it too much, as you can see, we can get this weird effect. So this is pretty much it, what I do in the basic panel. I like to check the color mixer if I need, because in color mixer I can do more with this selected colors that I want to work with. So for example, if I want to work on yellow, I can increase the saturation here if I would like to. If I want to increase the oranges, maybe somewhere inside here, I can do it as well. Reds, we have a lot of this color, so if I want to work with the reds, of course I can do it as well. Careful with this because we already have a lot of reds here. Magenta, I believe maybe we have some magenta here on the background. Not so much, but some of this. So if I want, I can increase a little bit of the saturation here if I want the background to be more dominating over here. The same when it comes to the hue, I rather try to make sure that the hue is perfect as I approach the final steps. So usually this is not the place where I'll be working with the hue, but we can do it if we need to do something a little bit more. When it comes to the reds, we can also add some of the light to the colors here. So for sure, color mixer, very useful. Doesn't mean we have to use it, of course. And personally, what I like to do is to add some grain. Many of my customers doesn't like to add grain. Some people like to add grain on beauty or fashion images, but not necessarily on the product images. So this is something I would say very subjective. I like to do it no matter what images I'm working with. I'm a huge fan of the grain because it breaks down the transitions between the shadows and highlights, or transitions between the colors in the very nice way. So as you can see, very settled adjustments at the very end, I do. This is the step where I simply try to make sure that my image looks perfect.